So when we're talking about any ab exercise, it's important to understand what those muscles actually do so we can get the most out of these and execute them in the right way. And when we're talking about training the rectus abdominis, which is like the six-pack muscles, what we need to understand is that they don't do hip flexion. What they do is called spinal flexion. And with the hanging knee raise, it's very apparent which of those two you are doing. And so hip flexion would be the act of bringing my foot up like this. Just bringing my knee up like this. This is flexing at the hip. And if you just stand here and do this, you're going to feel it at the top of your leg, maybe in this region right here. Spinal flexion is what the rectus abdominis or your core or your six-pack muscles do. And that looks more like bringing your rib cage closer to your pelvis like this. Rounding of the back, bringing your rib cage closer to your pelvis, bringing these 2 points closer together through a rounding or flexing of the spine. Now, when we're doing something like a hanging knee raise, it's impossible to get out all of the hip flexion that is involved. So you will still be doing this motion where you're bringing your knee up to your chest, but that isn't enough. If you just did this, it would only work your hip flexors and you're already going to be feeling it there quite a bit. Now, what I will say, two things, is if you have one of those like chairs where you have the elbow pad, usually it's where you could do dips and pull-ups. It has a backrest. You can hold it like this and kind of hold yourself up with these pads. Please use it. It's going to be a lot easier than doing a hanging variation. And if you have to do a hanging variation because you don't have that machine or whatever that's set up, then I recommend using Versa grips or straps so that your grip is not a limiting factor. Now, last piece is I don't have a straight bar here, and so I'm using my handles on the widest setting. You don't need to be doing this on such a wide grip. Find a grip where you feel strong, where it's least likely to be the limiting factor. I'm using this wide grip so that I can actually hang without my feet touching the ground. So don't necessarily need to be using this wide of a grip. Now, if you're doing this incorrectly and you're only flexing at the hip, it's going to look something like this, where you're just bringing the knees up to here. And I promise you, you might feel a little bit in your abs, but you are going to be smoked in your hip flexors. So what we want is to continue that motion a little bit until you see actually my pelvis and my lower back start to round up underneath my body. That is the spinal flexion that we're talking about in terms of the rectus abdominis actually working. And so these are what the reps should look like. I'll demonstrate a few. As you can see, yeah, I'm bringing my knees up, but it's continuing on until there is a rounding of the lower back. That is the rectus abdominis actually working, bringing my pelvis up closer to my rib cage. I'll show you another couple here. And again, make no mistake, you are going to feel this in your hip flexors as well. So if you're feeling that, that's okay. Frankly, they are muscles that we underwork anyway, so it's really great to get them a little stronger along the way.